Screenprint. So this is also sometimes called silkscreen. It's the older terminology for it because originally the process was made out of a very fine mesh screen made out of, as you could guess, silk. But these days there are all sorts of different materials that you can make the screens out of. So these days, more or less, you're probably just going to call it screen printing instead. So the basic gist of the process, instead of the full rundown like I would if I were teaching you how, the basic idea is that you have a screen that is made out of a very fine mesh where you can see through some holes if you look closely that are all going to hopefully be all the same all the way across the screen. Then you stretch it over a around a frame of some sort, wood, metal, whatever process you're using. And it makes kind of almost like a drum-like surface out of the screen. Get it all nice and tightly stretched so that it won't flex, won't wrinkle or anything like that. And then you block out some of the holes that you can see through and leave some of the other holes open. Lots of different processes for doing this, including photo emulsion that coats the entire thing, uses exposing it to UV light and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the basic gist is still the same. You block out some of the holes, you leave some of the holes open. Clean it up, and then get ready to print by putting some ink on it. After you've laid it down on top of whatever you want to print, let's say I wanted to screen print this onto a piece of paper and reproduce that same lettering that I just made over and over again because it's so wonderfully written, right? So I'd write that in my screen by leaving those areas open, letting the screen have holes still open through those, but blocking everything white out. Then I put a clean piece of paper or whatever onto a tabletop or whatever is convenient and whatever is best for it. Then put my stretched framed screen down on top of that and get it positioned exactly where I want it to be. Let's put that out here so you can see it. And then very carefully lay it down where I want it to be, sometimes mechanically aided with an arm. Sometimes they call them octopi or an octopus. Not important to this right now. You place it exactly where you want it, put some ink into the screen, then you take a squeegee and you carefully squeeze that ink across the whole surface, and wherever everything's blocked, that ink won't get through those little holes, but where you've left it open, it will, so it squeezes just a little bit of that ink through the holes onto your piece of paper, making a duplicate of what you just had. Now, a lot of your printmaking processes require you to draw or write all of your stuff backwards as a mirror image on the original, because then they're going to push surface to surface to things and make a duplicate of the mirror image. But that's not the case with Screenprint. If you're laying your screen down and it reads just the way you want it to, like as in visually reads or literally reads, there's words in it like we were just talking about. If everything's exactly the way you want it to be when it's done, that's great because you're about to make it look just like that. Other printmaking processes don't work like that. But with Screenprint, you can just make it straight the same way you're going to make it look in the long run. So yeah, it's fun stuff. It gets a little bit more complicated. There are several different ways of blocking those holes and leaving some open, but it's a lot of fun. Photo emulsion is the one I mentioned because it's the most versatile and it can do some really crazy cool stuff. It can also be a lot faster depending on how you want to do it. Can be really cool stuff. But Screenprint's pretty awesome, and it's a pretty reliable way to make a lot of reproductions of a really good piece of imagery on lots of different types of material. This is the process that you use most frequently for making t-shirts, where you have like a sports team or a person's face or whatever printed on it. Screenprint is probably the way they did that. Yeah.